Call the regular City Council meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Certainly. Mr. Burmeister?
Here.
Ms. Hammond?
Here.
Mr. Kittle?
Here.
Mr. Knight?
Here.
Ms. Mitchell?
Present.
Ms. Verbicki's not here at this time. Mayor McDaniel?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 4, Council 4A, regular City Council meeting that occurred. We have the minutes to approve of April 10th of 2017. If there aren't any corrections, I would be open for a motion. So
Your
moved.
Honor.
Moved by Mr. Kittle. Do we have support?
Second.
Supported by Ms. Mitchell. Any further discussion or comment? We're ready to vote.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 4B, City Council workshop that occurred on April 10th, 2017. If there aren't any corrections to those minutes, I'd be open for a motion.
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Knight. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Burmeister. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, we're ready to vote.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 5, Council, if you would please join me front here, as well as our city manager, for a presentation that I'd like to give. Good evening, Council, ladies and gentlemen. This time, if I could have Mr. Ed Gay please approach the podium. Council, it is our pleasure this evening to present Mr. Ed Gay with a proclamation on behalf of the city. Whereas Oakland Schools has recognized exemplary public school district teachers in elementary, middle, and high school, and each district may submit one nominee in each category. And whereas Oakland Schools has created these awards out of a conviction that a quality public education system is essential to the health and vitality of our community, and whereas Avondale High School teacher Edmund Gay was nominated by his students, faculty, peers, and district administration to be the high school teacher of the year. And whereas Mr. Gay has been teaching English and drama at Avondale High School for 30 years, that includes me. Whereas Mr. Gay challenges his students to become great writers, great speakers, and great actors, and promotes a culture in the classroom in which students are encouraged to grow in their leadership skills. And whereas Mr. Gay has created a well-respected drama program that involves about 10% of the student population, and they continue to be recognized for their performances on a state and international level. And whereas Mr. Gay dedicates countless hours after school tutoring, announcing the football halftime shows and school assemblies, running a summer drama program open to the entire district, and managing the Avondale Performing Arts Center, thereby demonstrating the value of dedication and perseverance daily. And whereas Edmund Gay's remarkable hours of teaching over the past 30 years has touched the lives of countless students through his leadership. And whereas through his efforts and example, Mr. Gay has achieved the highest standards of excellence in his profession and was awarded the Avondale High School Teacher of the Year and the Oakland County Outstanding Teacher of the Year awards for the high school level. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kevin McDaniel, on behalf of the City Council and the residents of the City of Auburn Hills, congratulate Mr. Gay on this great honor of being named Oakland Schools Teacher of the Year. Now, therefore, be it further resolved that we extend our appreciation and gratitude to Mr. Edmund Gay for his many years of service to the Avondale School District and extend our best wishes on his retirement and all his future endeavors. On behalf of the entire City Council, Mr. Gay, and the residents of Auburn Hills on this 24th day of April 2017, congratulations. right. Moving on to item number 6. This is public comment. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, this portion of the agenda is reserved for anyone in the audience that's wishing to speak on an item that is not on this evening's agenda. We do ask that as you come through council chamber doors, that you complete a public comment form. This just helps to ensure that we have accurate information for the meeting and to facilitate the minutes. At this time, I do not have any public comment forms completed. However, if you did not get an opportunity to complete one and you still wish to speak this evening, I'd ask that you please come forward at this time. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Council, that brings us to the consent agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, all items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of any of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event that item will be removed from the consent agenda and then considered in its normal sequence. Council items for our consideration this evening are the receiving of our boards and commission minutes for the Planning Commission meeting that occurred on April 12th, a motion to receive the first quarter 2017 cash management summary and executive reports, and also a motion for the purchase of an election equipment for our clerk's office. Council, it's before us for a motion.
Your Honor,
Ms. Mitchell.
I move to receive consent agenda item 7A, 7B, and approve as consent agenda item 7C.
Okay, motion by Ms. Mitchell. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Ms. Hammond. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, we're ready to vote.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Continuing under old business, we have 8A Council. It's a request for motion to introduce and set a public hearing for ordinance 17-890 regarding unauthorized water usage. Good evening, Director Melcher.
Good evening, Mayor McDaniel, members of the City Council. On March 27th, 2017, this ordinance amendment was introduced to the City Council, and no action was taken. It was sent back to staff for some revisions. Those revisions were completed by City Attorney Dirk Becker-Legg, and they include subsections E and F. Subsection E relates to unauthorized water consumption. Subsection F relates to improper backflow prevention. Both items are considered separate items, and any violators can be cited separately for each of those occurrences. The citing is a fine of $500 for each occurrence. So at this time, I'm prepared to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director Melcher. Council, any questions for staff at this time? It does appear that a lot of our additions were added on, and some of the suggestions were taken into consideration. So if there aren't any additional discussion items, I would be open for a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kittle.
I'd move to introduce and schedule a public hearing for May 8th, 2017 for the second reading and adoption of an amendment to Utilities Ordinance, subsections E and F to the Auburn Hills Code of Ordinances, Chapter 74, Section 74-145 for utilities.
Moved by Mr. Kittle. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Knight. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, we're ready to vote.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to new business, item 9A. It's a public hearing on a resolution confirming the special assessment role. This is resolution number 5 for Pacific Drive Road Improvement SAD, which is SAD number 4. Director Melcher.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next two items refer to a special assessment district for road improvements. And the first one here is Pacific Drive SAD number 4. Again, this is resolution number 5. After the public hearing, if you approve the resolution, it will confirm the role. And we expect that construction of the road project could begin as early as will begin next month.
Thank you, Director Melcher. Council, before I open the public hearing, are there any questions for staff? Okay. We will go ahead and open public hearing at 7:10. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, is there anyone wishing to speak on this item this evening? If so, I'd ask that you please come forward at this time. And sir.
Wow. This never happened to me before.
Sir, if you could please state your name, your title, and the corporation or corporations that you represent. And also, we are limiting this to a 3-minute time limit.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor McDaniel, City Council, I appreciate it. My name is John Gaber, and I'm an attorney in this instance for RDB Industries, Inc., which owns the property at 1399 Pacific Drive within this special assessment district. I submitted a letter to the clerk dated April 19th, but I'd just like to summarize our reasons for objecting to this SAD at this point in time. First of all, we don't think that the SAD is necessary for the protection of the public health, safety, and welfare. We believe that there are certain areas that are worse than others of the roadway, and we believe that there are less drastic measures that could be taken to improve the situation, to make repairs, to do saw cutting and such of the concrete out there without a full replacement of the road, which is being proposed in this instance. The second reason we believe that we shouldn't be submitted to, subject to an SAD here is because, the reason we're in this situation is because this road has been neglected over the past, number of years. I'm not sure how many, but essentially, if you look at the maintenance that's been done by the city of Auburn Hills, basically it's been some patching, some asphalt patching periodically. Not that much, but just a little. If there was a routine maintenance program that would have been in place over the past number of years, we would be in much better shape now, and the need for this total replacement would have been put off a number of years. The systematic replacement would, is something that my client paid for within their tax dollars. It was paid to the city. So essentially, we believe that it's due to the city's policy of not attending to the maintenance needs of this road that there's so much deferred maintenance that we find ourselves in this situation now. And that's why we suggest that it shouldn't be the property owner's burden. It should be the city's burden, because the city saved money over the years and now is burdening the property owners with this special assessment district. And finally, the third reason that we object is because the amount of the special assessment to be levied against this property will be disproportionate to any potential increase in value that results in this property. I believe the amount for this SAD is just over $82,000 would be the cost associated for each property owner. And we don't believe from talking to our experts that the value of the property is going to increase by that amount. So for these three reasons, we would object to this role for this SAD and would ask your consideration to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, do we have anyone else wishing to speak on this item regarding the Pacific Drive SAD improvement project? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing at 7:14. Council, it's before us for a motion.
Your Honor,
Ms. Mitchell.
I move to approve resolution number 5, confirming the special assessment role for the proposed special assessment district number 4 regarding the repair of and improvements to Pacific Drive.
Moved by Ms. Mitchell. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Burmeister. Any further discussion or comment? We're ready to vote.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9B, public hearing and a resolution confirming the special assessment role. This is also resolution number 5 for the North Atlantic Boulevard and Continental Drive Road Improvement SAD. This is SAD number 5. Director Melcher, the floor is yours.
Just one other item to comment on here. Reading the memo today, I found one typo, and that would be under staff recommendation, that first sentence, City of Auburn Hills City Council's approved resolutions 1, 2, 3, and 4 for SAD. And I have in there SAD number 4, Pacific Drive. That should be North Atlantic Boulevard, Continental, SAD number 5. The motion is correct.
Excellent, thank you. Council, any questions for staff before we open the public hearing? Okay, we will open public hearing at 7:15. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, is there anyone wishing to speak on this item this evening? If so, I ask that you please come forward at this time.
Thank you,
Mr. Gaber?
Mr. Mayor. John Gaber again. In this case, for SAD number 5, I represent 2 clients. I represent Mr. Don Bailey, who's with Bailey Properties, who's the owner of the property at 4141 North Atlantic Boulevard, and also Green Optics LLC, their tenant in that property. And then I also represent RDB Brown Road LLC, which is located at 1250 Brown Road. Now, relative to 4141 North Atlantic, I would make the same arguments that I just made relative to Pacific Drive as to why this SAD this role should not be approved this evening. Number one, because we believe there are less drastic measures in terms of repairs that can be undertaken instead of a full replacement. Number two, because we believe that there's been systematic deferred maintenance over the years, which if that money would have been spent on an annual program, it would not result in this burden being imposed, this SAD, upon the property owners at this point in time. Third, we don't believe that the SAD, the value of the SAD in this amount, in this case, over $94,000 per property, we believe that this will be disproportionate to the increase in value that's going to result to this property after the SAD is done. Based on talking to our real estate professionals and such, we don't think the property value is going to increase by that amount. And then fourth, with regard to 4141 North Atlantic, one thing to keep in mind is the method of the apportionment. I know it's basically one apportionment unit per property within this district, but there are other mitigating factors such as, for example, in this case, all the traffic from the palace has been directed over this particular area and this property, which we believe has been over 30 events a year. The traffic is funneled out, and there's quite an increase in traffic over this roadway, which doesn't occur elsewhere. And this is an artificial situation, which obviously puts substantial wear and tear upon this road. So for those 4 reasons, we would object to the role for 4141 North Atlantic Boulevard. For 1250 Brown Road, the first 3 objections would still apply in terms of the repairs versus replacement, number 1. Number 2, the deferred maintenance issue. And number 3, the disproportionality between the increase in property value versus the amount of the SAD that property owner has to bear. And then the 4th reason relative to this property is because, once again, it deals with the apportionment. This property is located on Brown Road. This property has a main entrance on Brown Road, and it has a side entrance on Atlantic. So basically, the traffic that flows into this property flows through 2 directions. So therefore, assessing this property for a full benefit unit, we believe
Mr.
is
Gabriel, I'm
unfair.
going to have to ask you to wrap it up for me.
Yes, sir. We believe is unfair for that reason. We think it should only be half that amount at most. So for those reasons, I would ask your indulgence to vote against this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone else wishing to speak on the SAD project as it relates to Atlantic Boulevard and Continental Drive? All right. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. I guess before I open the floor for a motion, Council, I was kind of saving a little bit of information after we looked at both SADs. I guess, Mr. Gaber, to kind of give you a little bit of information as terms of what this council is looking at. And, we appreciate your opinion. We appreciate, you representing the different business and property owners here within the community and bringing forth those concerns. While this is obviously not an ideal situation, and regardless of how we got here, we're a council that's faced with making decisions based on the circumstances we're giving as of today. This is a decision I want you to know that this council did not take lightly. We understand that this is kind of a new page in Auburn Hills history, so to speak. And, with funding challenges throughout the state, like every other community has experienced, has not been easy. And we here in Auburn Hills are faced with those same concerns. and stresses. So, we're forced to operate differently. However, the great news, is that we don't have to take such extraordinary measures as many of the communities around us or throughout the state have had to take. We've been a little bit unique here. I don't know if you've seen that in terms of, or really obviously recognize that, but most communities will pass on and have the property owners bear 100% of the burden when it comes to road improvements and repair costs. Again, realizing where we're at today and understanding that you may have a different opinion of how we got here or the steps taken that have given us the situation that we have here today. But again, I'm proud to say that, when we look at things to do on the best interest of not only our business residents, but also, of course, the residents that call Auburn Hills home, we chose here in Auburn Hills to be a little bit different, and we only bared a 50% cost onto the property owners. In essence, the city is contributing a 50% of those funding for the SAD. So I hope that you, as well as your representatives of the business properties, can fully understand the position that, this unique position that the city council's in, and I hope you can fully understand and appreciate, what this council had to do in terms of implementing this type of policy decision. So those are my comments, council. At this time, I offer additional comments. Mr. Knight?
I don't have to give a long speech because the mayor's covered everything. But I always want to comment. We've wrestled with this one. No matter, I've come up with so many different formulas, and each time somebody's going to be unhappy of what you do. And I know in talking with our attorney that this type of approach is accepted by the tax tribunal. And every point was reasonable that was presented, but in the overall thing, from a city standpoint, from finances and everything, after wrestling, we've come to this is the first way, and I appreciate Mr. Gabriel coming, and I read all those letters, and they make good points, but for the best approach from the city is the approach we're taking.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Ms. Hammond?
Actually, I do have a quick one. Mr. Melcher, can you clarify the fact that he was saying that these roads weren't maintained and taken care of as they should have been?
Yes, I'd be happy to. We have an excellent asset management program and maintenance program. The concrete on Pacific Drive, as far as the curb and gutter goes, that suffers from alkaline silica reaction. Doesn't matter what maintenance we do to it, it's going to degrade and fall apart. Absolute same thing going on with North Atlantic Boulevard and Continental. We could cut the joints out, and instead of having one joint deteriorating, we have two joints. There's no way to beat that but to replace the concrete.
Thank you. I know that I'm in my 12th year on council, and I know that when we go through the maintenance and the numbers that, I've seen these roads listed several times that have been spot repaired and whatnot over the years. So I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hammond. Do you have something, Mr. Kittle?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You covered a lot, and Mr. Gabriel, your client should be happy with your representation. You spoke well on their behalf. The city has almost 150 centerline miles of road that it's taking care of, and as you read in the papers, all the stuff that's going on, we probably have a more progressive road maintenance program than most do, but it's just an overwhelming number. And right now, we're very scientific in how we rate the roads. There's a scale, 1 to 10, and basically 4 is when they get to the point of needing total reconstruction at some point in the near future. All I can say is if it's any consolation, we're trying to absorb as much as we can on this at 50%. And in order to not allow the community to degrade to the point where it does become detrimental to health, safety, and welfare, it's an unfortunate decision that we have to make. But it's not something that has gone through lightly. We've been discussing this for over a year, and hopefully this notification isn't the first you've heard of it.
Council, any further comments? If not, I'd be open for a motion for item 9B.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kittle.
I'd move to approve resolution number 5, confirming the special assessment role for the proposed special assessment District number 5 regarding the repair of and improvements to North Atlantic Boulevard and Continental Drive.
Moved by Mr. Kittle,
Support.
supported by Mr. Knight. Any further discussion? We're ready to vote.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 9C, council to request for motion regarding the approval of a site plan for FEV North America Incorporated. Good evening, Director Cohen.
Mayor McDaniel and members of the City Council, this is a request from FEV North America to construct a 25,600 square foot research and laboratory facility on a parcel of land located east of Gislin between I-75 and Harmon. The site is zoned TNR, Technology and Research. This is the first phase of a larger development. In July 2016, FEV North America announced plans to construct a $27.4 million North American headquarters and technical center with a 4-story office building on this site. The council is not being requested to approve this office building. We're just providing it for history. This is the first phase of the technical center for this project. The office building will require a separate review at a later date. The total investment in the first phase is estimated at $4.2 million. Construction is expected to begin in May and can be complete by February of 2018. The Planning Commission and staff recommend approval, and representatives from FEV, along with their entire design team, are here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Cohen. Council, before we have the petitioner come forward, any questions for staff? At this time, I'd invite representatives from FEV to come forward at this time and have them introduce themselves or himself for the record.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. My name is Marek Tatura. I'm the Director of Operations at FEV North America.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming this evening. Mr. Tator, is there anything additional you would like to state as it relates to the project?
Mr. Cohen was very thorough. We're very excited, looking forward to this addition. We have with the 2 buildings already in Auburn Hills at Luella Lane and Glenmead Lane, well over 100,000 square feet. And this is an important addition for us, expanding into new areas.
Excellent. Council, any questions for the petitioner? Mr. Knight?
Pull your mic up just a teeny bit. I'm the hard of hearing one. It's mentioned very clearly, this is the first step. Over how long a period of time do you expect to develop the whole site? And that's just a general thing, not anything.
The office building expansion is currently still under discussion, so there is no clear timeline. It could be a few years, it could be 5 years, but the specifics aren't defined yet as of today.
Glad to have you doing the first one.
Any further questions, Council? Before a motion, I'd just like to say congratulations on your growth, and we appreciate the investment, and of course that FEV calls Auburn Hills home. So thank you for that, and the partnership we look forward to continuing to have. Council, with that, I'd be open for a motion to approve this site plan if there aren't any further questions.
Your Honor,
Mr. Burmeister.
move to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and approve the site plan for FEV North America Incorporated, subject to the conditions of the administrative review team.
Moved by Mr. Burmeister. Do we have support?
Second.
Supported by Ms. Mitchell. Any further discussion or comment? We're ready to vote.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Congratulations. Item number 9D, Council, it's a request for a motion regarding the approval of a site plan and a tree removal permit for Hutchinson. Director Cohen.
Mayor McDaniel and members of the City Council, this is a request from General Development Company to construct a 60,500 square foot corporate office building for Hutchinson. It'll be located in the Oakland Technology Park on the west side of Cross Creek Parkway, just south of the Delphi building. The site is zoned TNR Research and Development. A notable issue we want to bring to the council's attention is regarding the replacement trees. 308 replacement trees are required for this site, but we have worked with General Development to design the site with only 168 trees. 140 trees will be planted off-site on various city properties. The reason why we worked with them on that was that essentially if they planted all 308 trees on the site, they'd be planted on top of each other. And our tree consultant recommended that we work to space the trees out in a better condition. And we appreciate General Development working with us on that. The total investment in this project is estimated at $8 million. Construction is expected to begin next month, with completion taking place by June 2018. The Planning Commission and staff recommend approval of the project. Teresa Bruce with General Development is here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Cohen. Council, any questions for staff at this time? If I could have the representative from General Development to please come forward. Ma'am, if you could just please state your name and the title of the corporation in which you represent.
Yep, my name is Teresa Bruce. I'm with General Development.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming this evening. Is there anything you wish to add as it relates to the project?
Nope. They're excited to stay in Auburn Hills, and they are, the Hutchinson representatives are all out of the country right now, so they apologize for not being here tonight.
Well, please pass on to them on behalf of the City Council that we are very appreciative that they've called Auburn Hills home since 2000, and that we are also very appreciative that they have chosen to further develop within our community and to invest. Council, at this time, is there any questions for the petitioner? If not, I'd be open for a motion. Sure, Mr. Burmeister?
Just real quickly, you're gonna take away my deer viewing and my turkey viewing by building there.
You're not the first to complain.
There's no, you do know there's no hunting in Auburn Hills.
It's his viewing, it's not the hunting.
That's why I said viewing.
Gotcha. Just teasing you. Okay, Council, if there aren't any further discussion items or questions, I'd be open for a motion.
Your Honor,
Mr. Burmeister?
move to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and approve the site plan and tree removal permit for Hutchinson North America headquarters, subject to the conditions of the administrative review team.
Moved by Mr. Burmeister. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Ms. Hammond. Any further discussion or comment? We're ready to vote.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Congratulations. Have a great evening. Moving on to item 9E under new business, we have a public hearing and a request for a motion council to establish an industrial development district for Kensington Community Church. Good evening, Assessor Griffin.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We have received a request to establish an industrial development district on the southeast corner of Bald Mountain and Dutton Road. It's a vacant parcel, 19.5 acres. The parcel was rezoned in 2016 from R1A to TNR. The staff has reviewed the request and we recommend approval of the request. Also, there's a representative from Cunningham Limp here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Assessor Griffin. Council, any questions for staff at this time? Mr. Kittle?
So this, just to confirm, this is the parcel that would be then west of the soccer fields,
Correct.
all the way to Bald Mountain?
Yep.
Down to, okay, all right, thank you.
Excellent question. Council, any further questions for staff? If not, if I could have a representative from Cunningham Limp to please come forward. Good evening, sir, and if you could please just state your name and the title of the corporation you represent for the record.
My name is Randy DeRider, and I'm representing Cunningham Limp.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mr. DeRider, for coming this evening. Is there anything you wish to add as it relates to the Industrial Development District for Kensington Church?
I don't think there's anything to add. We just think that this is an important designation as we move forward with the evaluation of this property, and we would request that you grant approval.
Excellent. Council, any questions for the petitioner at this time? All right.
I
I have a quick one.
Sure, Ms. Hammond.
I know that we've discussed this several times about changing the rezoning of this property. And at first, we were kind of talking about just putting up a speculative building there. Do you have any interest in any tenants there at the moment?
We have a couple of parties that are interested in the property. You know, Auburn Hills is a great location, and we're very confident that we'll be able to move forward with a very successful project. We do not have a specific tenant at this time.
Well, as long as you're encouraged that you can get it developed, we're happy. Thank you.
Okay, sir, you can feel free to have a seat. We're all set with you at this time. At this time, we do need to open the public hearing, and so I will do so at 7:36. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, is there anyone wishing to speak on the Industrial Development District for Kensington Church? If so, I please ask that you come forward at this time. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing at 7:36. And council, it is before us for a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Knight,
I move to approve the request to establish an industrial development district for Kensington Community Church by adopting the attached resolution.
all right, moved by Mr. Knight. Do we have support?
Second.
Supported by Ms. Mitchell. Any further discussion or comment? Mr. Knight?
Did not read the attached resolution, but it describes the property. This says Kensington Church. They just happen to own it. It's not the Kensington site, you know, so, okay, thank you.
Great. Mr. Kittle?
At one point in time, and maybe this is a question for Mr. Cohen, but wasn't the soccer place talking about expanding at one point in time, and maybe that was to the east?
Yes, this map shows the change the planning commission made to allow for their property to be made non-residential. And the idea was that they wanted to expand their fields and provide lighting at their facility, and the TNR zoning would allow them to do it. They've yet to move forward. I think there's been some changeover in leadership at the soccer club.
Thank you.
Mr. Knight?
A little background, if you remember, this was the stinkiest place in for about 2 years when they redeveloped and put the junk and seeds and all that. This was the one that stunk for a long while.
Okay. All right, if there aren't any further comments, we are ready to vote.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. And closing out new business, 9F, request for motion to approve the purchase of a replacement street sweeper. Mr. Brisson, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. About 10 years ago, the in-house street sweeping program began through the DPW. And while there were some early challenges with operator training and technician training for the equipment, we quickly realized the benefit of improved quality sweeping on city streets for cleaner streets. We've done a current in-house cost comparison with the contracted costs. As mentioned in the memo, there was an invitation to bid put out, and it does show that our operating costs in-house compare with those of contracted services. Auburn Hills Fleet researched several sweepers and dealers last fall, and by coincidence, Rochester Hills formed a consortium with, I believe, about 4 other communities, and we're doing the same research. The conclusion was ours was the same as Rochester Hills Consortium, that Elgin Equipment through Bell Equipment Company in Orion was the favorable vendor. Our existing machine has reached the age and hours where we've gotten a life cycle out of the equipment, and we're recommending staying with the in-house sweeping program and purchasing a replacement sweeper through Bell Equipment at a cost of $269,179.
Excellent, thank you, Mr. Brisson. Council, any questions for staff? Ms. Hammond?
Yes. Actually, when I saw this, I thought, my gosh, how time flies, because I remember discussing this when we first purchased the first one. Is the first one going to be sold? We're going to hold on to it for maybe some smaller jobs? Is it beyond repair?
One sweeper is adequate for our community. We will try to sell the equipment through Mitten or Gov Deals. The trade-in value is currently at $32,000. We'll have an opportunity while the new sweeper's on order to try to do a little better than that. Our worst-case scenario would be taking the trade at $32,000.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, Ms. Mitchell, and then I'll go to Mr. Knight.
Thank you. Do you know what's the life expectancy for this piece of equipment?
As a single sweeper for the community, evaluation at about a 7-year mark, and then taking the machine is wear and tear hours and so on in consideration. Getting 10 years out of a street sweeper is actually very good. So 7 to 10 years is about a life cycle expectancy.
Thanks. And then what's the frequency of use that we have for this equipment?
Very heavy use in the spring and in the fall, on an as-needed base through the summer. The machine is not used in the winter unless it's an emergency because you're using water for dust control.
Like in the spring and the summer, would we anticipate daily use, weekly?
Yes, daily use.
Daily, okay. Thank you.
There's about 400 hours a year put on the machine average. Most of that's going to be in the spring and probably about 60% in the spring and the remaining in the fall.
Thank you.
Mr. Brisson, just a quick question along those lines. Is it typical that we'll see that street sweeper on pretty much all of our paved roads throughout one season, or do you kind of have to break up the city? You know, this season we hit this area, and the following season, kind of on average.
We will sweep major roads about 4 times a year. High travel areas or high dirt areas more often. The residential streets and the less traveled local streets is twice a year. So anything that has curb and gutter, it's 2 sweepings a year minimum.
Oh, excellent. That's good information for me to have, because I've actually been asked how often do the street sweepers come down a residential street. So thank you for that. Mr. Knight.
This is a little off, but related to it. Maybe we could sell the street sweeper to Federal Paving, because the problem is again coming on Auburn Road, and I assume that you're not going to sweep that. I'm assuming we're going to make the person that dumps all the road on it. And so I just mentioned that that's an issue that, just to remind the folks that the DPW, they need to be on top of that, because that is always a dirty mess.
State crushing does sweep Auburn in that area. In my opinion, I think they do a pretty good job most of the time. If we get into heavy rains and there's a lot of trucks in and out of there, no amount of sweeping will keep up, but as soon as the weather dries up, they're out there sweeping. So that section of Auburn Road, we will sweep it, but they take care of it.
When it's wet, it's when it dries that it becomes.
Is there, to that point, Mr. Brisson, is there any requirement on spraying it down to kind of reduce some of the dust in that area, or is it something we can implement?
Are you referring to when we're sweeping?
No, just that area in general with all the stuff that comes out and the traffic that comes in and out of there. You know, to Mr. Knight's point, when it is wet, it doesn't seem to be an issue. It does get, you know, I mean, when I drive through there in the summertime, you make sure your air's off and the windows are rolled up, so.
The amount of truck traffic into that whole area, I think the sweeping they do to supplement, which is handled through code enforcement and community development, I think they've done a pretty good job, but it's gonna be dusty when they have a lot of in and out of traffic.
I just, you know, and another thing, you know, that entry, right, is all gravel in that area. I don't know if there's anything we can require to say, you know, so many feet in, you gotta have a paved surface, because it, you know, one, traffic's bad, right, and they're trying to get out, and, you know, I can't tell you how many times we've probably all experienced it, where those trucks pull out in front of you, they don't care, you know, who's there. And they do it, and clearly they could probably get a citation for it if somebody was sitting there in some circumstances. My point being, the dust that comes up with them, spinning their wheels or coming out of there, trying to, get a head start in front of traffic, is there anything that we can do as a city, either one, with requiring watering, and maybe this, we don't have the answer today, but something to think about, or two, requiring some sort of approved surface, paving surface, so many feet from the curb, so that it gives it a chance to keep all that stuff as much as we can within the property limits. So we can table that. If you don't have anything, that's fine, but just something to think about, and maybe we could get back to it, okay? All right, Mr. Kittle.
Hi, Mr. Brisson. You had indicated that the life expectancy is about 7 years?
For a single sweeper, I've talked to some communities that have more than one sweeper. As it gets older, it becomes a backup. It's just been suggested by other fleet managers that have more experience with street sweepers than I do. Mine's 10 years. You want to take a good look at 7 years and then start strategizing on when you'll replace. Knowing that information, I'm happy we've gotten the 10 years. And I thought about perhaps pushing it out further, but just looking at the machine overall, I think this is a good time to, if we're going to stay with an in-house sweeping program, to get a new sweeper and not be burdened with unreliability issues as it gets older.
So the cost of $269, it's really, so minus the 32 or whatever you can get, so the net is more like 237 once we offload the older equipment.
That is correct.
And on the analysis, so, you said 400 hours a year. When you did your your study on outsourcing it, the prices range from $33,700 to $78,000 per year. So really, the range of $210,000 for the average life expectancy of the equipment, up to a much larger number. When you did that study, did you count, the man hours and associated benefits and labor costs and all that stuff?
I did factor in our labor costs for the in-house program with that, yes. Someone needs to operate the sweeper, so that was included.
So, to me, this is one of those, almost teetering on the edge of, and I appreciate the fact that you used the words, if we decided to retain an in-house street sweeping program. And I struggled with it a little bit, but the one benefit I see too, and thanks to the great work that Mr. Judice's company did relative to educating us on the stormwater maintenance issues that we have to deal with in the future, doing the best we can to keep junk out of the catch basins is probably an enviable thing and could save us some considerable money down the road too, so I will support it.
That's a great point, Mr. Kittle. Thanks for sharing that. Council, any further comments? I believe we have a motion and a support, so do we get a motion for this one yet? Okay, so we're open for a motion.
I'll move that to approve the purchase of a replacement Elgin Whirlwind street sweeper from Bell Equipment Company, 71 North Point Drive, Lake Orion, Michigan, 48359. At a total cost of $269,179. Funding is provided in the Fleet Operating Budget Account 661-442-981.000.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Knight, supported by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further comment or discussion? Ms.
Just
Hammond?
one. You said 71, it's 78 North Point.
Okay with that correction, Mr. Knight, Ms. Mitchell? Okay. Any further comments? If not, we are ready to vote.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry? Anybody? Item 10, comments and motions from council. Go ahead and start with you, Ms. Hammond.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody's been downtown lately. It's beautiful this time of year, but the planter that sits right outside the corner where the vacant restaurant is missing 2 of the corner pieces. I don't know if that was on purpose and they're being fixed, but it's been that way for probably a week.
We're aware of it. We're getting the pieces we need to make the replacements, so I'm hoping this week we'll have it completed.
Okay, and I was noticing tonight as I was coming in, downtown, we've got some places already where the curbs look like they've been run into several times and have large chips out of them. So maybe you could send somebody down there to check on those before they deteriorate completely.
Mr. Burson just informed me that as soon as we get a little warmer weather, we'll be down looking at that and making repairs as we need to.
Okay, thank you. And council, once again, I'm sorry I missed the last meeting. My granddaughter was forced to make an appearance 6 weeks early. So I was busy at the hospital, and she is well and doing fine now and out of NICU.
Well, congratulations, Ms. Hammond, on becoming a grandmother.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Mr. Knight? It's all yours.
I serve as vice chair of the Boys and Girls Club Board. And on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club, I want to thank the City of Auburn Hills, the council, the city manager for providing a facility on which to have it. Comments, we got so many favorable comments over where we had been using the Oakland University thing. It was just thrilling, but it's because of that. The generosity of the city of transporting the children with the bus. We greatly appreciate the support that the city has provided for the Boys and Girls Club. The city, as part of their recognition during the program, Mr. McDaniel was there, but he had to unfortunately leave to take a trip, and so I took his place. We presented the city's special recognition award to Dr. George Hine for his special consideration and concern that he's shown for working with the city. We thought that this was somebody that was worthy of that. And second, the 11th annual Henry V. Knight Award was awarded to Ed Gay. He's, well, it was all independent, but he had made it special. But I want to again thank you on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club for the support of the city. That's all I have.
Well, thank you, Mr. Knight, and I was actually going to thank you under my comments for representing me, because as the program kind of got longer, I had recognized the fact that I needed to get to the airport to make it past TSA. So thank you for presenting that award on behalf of the city in my absence. With that, I'll move to Mr. Kittle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to say thank you to Steve Cohen and all your team and the Planning Commission for the work and diligence that you guys do with all these developments that we have coming forward. It certainly makes our job a lot more straightforward. I didn't want to use the word easy, but it actually fits too. But I appreciate it. These things come through and they're pretty well greased, and all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and I thank you for that. It's work well recognized. With that, I was just kind of also wondering what was, if you could give any update on the condo development on Squirrel Road on the east side, just north of, well, the newest one on the southernmost side.
They are proceeding, that's the reserves, and they have submitted engineering drawings. And we would expect in the next few months that they'll get started, at least with the first model.
Okay, because it looks like they're going a little slower compared to most of these developments, and I was just concerned they have a lot of tree debris to clean out yet.
Yeah, they ran into some engineering problems that were not observed during the site plan review, and they're trying to remedy those.
Okay, we'll probably need a street sweeper up there a couple times. So thank you for the update. Looking forward to seeing that move further along. And finally, I just thought I'd mention the Beautification Advisory Commission. We're going through a lot of discussion on kind of repurposing the commission and what it is or isn't going to be in the future. But one thing that's coming up on May 20th, Saturday morning at Riverwoods Park, is the Perennial Day Exchange. So for those of you that are interested or would like to participate in that, put that down on your calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kittle. Mr. Burmeister.
Mr. Tangi, I just thought of something in the absence of Ms. Verbecki. Any update on the dump, the smell of the methane? I know there was some conversation earlier this week, and it was noticed Monday, and I noticed it Thursday night as well.
I know that they've completed the new methane gas wells that were installed, and I think I provided that update. As far as odor recently, I can tell you I haven't been past the landfill in the last few days, so unless somebody maybe from DPW has made any observations, I don't know if there's any change. I know they did expect the odor to get stronger for a short period before it got better because they were puncturing the liner of the landfill, and they had to do that with each well that they were installing. So I couldn't tell you what it's like in the last few days, though.
Okay, it made sense for Monday through Thursday of last week, I believe it was, for it to be quite offensive.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burmeister. Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell.
Thank you. Just a couple. Wanted to express appreciation to Director Cohen and Mr. Jack Skinner and the Community Development Department for addressing an issue that I noticed at one of our plazas over the weekend. So I appreciate your rapid response to that. And then also just wanted to share, I was recently stopped by one of my neighbors who unfortunately is managing a long-term illness and just expressed a lot of appreciation for the bus service that we have for seniors. Was actually using that regularly to get to and from medical appointments and really described it as a lifesaver. So I know a lot of times we are very occupied with the core services that we provide as a city, and we should be, but it's also nice to know that some of the other services we're able to provide have significant impacts on some of our residents' lives.
Excellent, thank you. I just have two quick ones, and actually I have a question for staff, and DPW probably would be the relevant department, and feel free to let me know that you got to follow up on this. I don't really expect an answer unless you know something, but regarding the river at Riverside Park, the bridge there at Auburn Road, there's some tree cutting just to the west of the bridge. I'm imagining that we're waiting for probably the weather to dry up a little bit, because getting a truck back in there and cleaning some of that up a little bit more would provide ruts, I'm sure. I'm just wondering if that is the plan. I just wanted to assure a couple of people that had contacted me that there is a plan to clean that up a little bit more.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't have the plan, but I'll get you something tomorrow.
Okay. I believe that we were cutting down some trees and some brush in that area to kind of make it cleaner, particularly those are right adjacent. I'm not sure if it's on an easement, but those are right adjacent to the two parcels that the city owns. So I just wanted to try to get some information on that. And that's actually all I have. I covered the other one. Sure, Mr. Burmeister.
Mr. Mayor, you brought up something that I was thinking about and I forgot to write it down. Regarding the Clinton River, I know the city of Rochester is putting up markers along the river for identification spots, so that if anybody should run into an emergency. Are you part of that? Are we part of that same committee that's doing the identification?
Yes, we are. I believe there are the mile markers, so that if there is any incident, it'd be able to identify where that person would be, and so that emergency response can get there.
Have we completed that yet? I don't think they're mile markers. I think they're just identification markers.
I am not aware that we're done with that yet, if anybody else knows.
Mr. Mayor, I can have Mr. Marzoff reach out to council tomorrow and update him on the status of that program.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All set. Sure. Mr. Knight.
I just forgot one. The Easter parade at the community center was wall-to-wall kids and wall-to-wall parents, and I think they set a new record. I think it was less than a minute before the grounds were cleaned. But it was well-attended, and it was a very diverse population. And just wanted to report that went off well, and there were several churches that had their tents and provided services to the community voluntarily and so on. And the egg toss went off as usual. And so just want to report that was well attended and maybe merits our continued support because it was a big turnout.
Great. Good addition. All right, we are on to the city attorney's report, and then we will go on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Wednesday, April 12th, I had the pleasure of welcoming members of the Board of Trustees from Waterford Township to our community center. Waterford is considering the development of a new community center and visited ours for a tour and to learn more about everything from what we offer to how it, or what it costs to operate. So we were pleased to be able to assist a neighbor in their fact-finding. On Thursday evening, April 13th, Ms. Mitchell, Ms. Carroll, and I attended the grand opening of Lucerne International. This global company has opened its headquarters at 40 Corporate Drive. I was asked to provide welcome remarks and to introduce Ms. Mitchell, who in turn introduced the company's CEO, Mary Buchseiger. We certainly wish Mary nothing but success as she grows her company here in Auburn Hills. Staff is continuing to work with the fire union on the negotiation of a transition from our 12-hour shifts to a 24-hour shift operating model. We believe we should be concluding our negotiations very soon, and I will continue to keep the city council posted. And lastly, you may recall that Auburn Hills has a scholarship offered at Oakland University. I'm pleased that I have had the opportunity to get to know our current scholarship recipients, and I was able to have dinner with them last week to celebrate their educational accomplishments. I want to recognize and congratulate our scholars, Isabella Garces, Jacqueline Monroy, and Tyler Durand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tangi. And council, item 13, we'll need an executive session regarding a city attorney's legal opinion for rezoning, regarding zoning, I should state, and then also the sale of land.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hammond,
Second.
supported by Ms. Mitchell. We are ready to vote.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. To adjourn, moved by Ms. Hammond, supported by Ms. Mitchell. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.